Hello again. It's time for another crash course in music history, and today we're going to be looking at the Middle Ages, or the Dark Ages as they were sometimes referred to. So let's jump right in. So the Middle Ages, the thing that's significant about this time period as far as music goes is this is where the birth of vernacular music takes place. Now, what in the world does vernacular mean? Well, vernacular simply means the language you speak, your words that you understand. Why is it such a big deal that music is now in the vernacular of the people? Well, maybe the question I should ask is what language was it all in before? Where was most music coming from? What was it being written for? Right. Most music was church music up to this point. It was written for the church. It was written by the church. And it was in Latin. As you may recall, the church had adopted by this point, the Catholic Church had adopted a policy of working in Latin. But you've got your common people, your regular old plain Janes, they don't speak Latin. It's a dead language apart from how it's used in the church. And so now people have music in their own language, much like what happened later when the Bible was translated into people's language. They now had access to it. These people that weren't educated. I mean, can you imagine if all the music you had in your life was in a foreign language? That would be like me listening to nothing but mariachi music and jamming out and pretending like I understood what was going on. It just would not work well, and music just wouldn't have the same meaning for people. So this was exciting. This also meant that secular music started to rise up at this point. Instruments were on the rise again. And you now have people going around making music for purposes other than the church. It's at this point that we see troubadours coming around and similar groups in other countries, but the troubadours are the most prolific and the most well-known from this era. These are French music-making groups that were supported by different aristocrats, by different political, wealthy leaders. And what do you think they sang about? Well, they sang about what we sing about today. They sang about love, 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 unrequited love, love lost, love gained. Now, you need to understand that troubadour music was strophic. Now, what does strophic mean? Excuse me. Strophic means that you have a set of notes, a tune, and you keep redoing it with new sets of words. Very much like what we do with almost all music today. We have a verse with a tune and a chorus with a tune, and then we go back and we use that verse tune again, but we put new words on it. We're not talking about choruses just yet, but we are talking about this strophic idea of recycling music over and over again. The other thing that we should mention about it, actually, no, that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about. So go ahead and pull up the next song on your playlist. It's Con ve la Lozetta, which is another great sad boy song about unrequited love, except it's from the Middle Ages. Enjoy, and then come back and check in with us again. Now, instruments are being developed at a rapid pace during this era. You have the viol, which is a predecessor of the violin, which we're super excited about. You have the psaltery, which is a little harp-like thing that has a soundboard like a piano. You have the transverse flute, which has no keys, it just has tone holes, and it's made of wood or ivory. You have the shawm, which is basically the predecessor of the oboe. You have trumpets, but not like what we would know today. These are herald trumpets. These don't have valves, so you're only playing on the open harmonic series. For my brass players, you understand what that is. And then one of my personal favorites, the hurdy-gurdy, which is just such a cool instrument. And I'm going to have you watch a video of it next. But as you watch it, I want you to notice how some of the strings just perpetually drone on. They create this pedal tone, very much like a bagpipe, where there's just this perpetual pitch or set of pitches that sound while you play other pitches over top. So take a look at that hurdy-gurdy video that's in the next section of your playlist, and then come back and join us here again. So the other big exciting development in music for the Middle Ages is the development of polyphony. Now, what is polyphony, you may ask? Well, let's break the word down. The second half of the word phony, to phonate, phonics. This is to produce sound. First half of the word poly means multiple. So now we have multiple layers of sounds and melodies interacting with each other and working together, and it's awesome. We're finally past the single melodies that are unaccompanied or just go on with a drone. This is not homophony, which is what we're used to today. Homophony is this idea of a similar rhythm in all parts, even though the notes are different. So think like hymns. Pretty much the same rhythm in all the parts, but different notes. This is not heterophony either. That's the same melody in two voices, varied slightly. Do you hear how they were very similar? This is not that. And again, this is not monophony, which is just that singular voice going on. So we're really excited about this. The French have decided to get real crazy here in the 12th century and have more than just two voices. Well, they have two voices at first, two independent lines, and then in the 13th century, some crazy nuts from Notre Dame, which is where this polyphony originated from, they decide that they're going to have even more parts. Now, you'll notice when you look at this recording that I want you to listen to, it's a recording by a composer named Periton, and it's some four-part polyphony. Although you'll notice that the fourth part has a real exciting, complex part going on. I want you to take note that in the video, if you watch it, the notation is modern. This is not how they would have seen it at this time. They would have seen it marked in diastematic noon notation with different marks for longs and shorts, which is something that we're just getting to. So I want you to pause the video, take a listen to the Periton, either on Spotify or on YouTube, and then come back and join us for the rest of this presentation. Now, I happen to be a really big fan of that particular polyphony. It would be what's called organum quadruplum, because there were four parts. So there's organum triplum, there's organum duplum, and that was organum quadruplum. All right, so Notre Dame took things further in the 13th century when they started doing motets. Now, motets, what are those? This is the idea of multiple parts, polyphonic, but now each part has different text, which is a little bit crazy, but it doesn't matter because it's still in Latin. Nobody could understand it anyways. But it's a great way to fit more text in a short amount of space. This is church music, so that's what's going on. So that happens in the 13th century. Then we finally get the last piece that we need in notating music. We get this Franconian notation on the right. This is a big deal. Why? What can you tell me about what you see? Right. We now have shapes that tell us how long to hold a note. God bless the Germans. So now we're finally getting to the point where we can write out music and someone who has never seen it before can learn it and reproduce it correctly without having to have someone else sing it to them.